Special meeting of the City Council held in City Council chambers on Wednesday, January 6, 2016 at 6:30 p.m. for the purpose of taking up and receiving the resubmittal of a zoning ordinance map change on the property located at 297-305 Bridge Street and to discuss scheduling public hearings on matters relative to declaring a parcel of property as surplus property known as Plan of Land 297-305 Bridge Street at the former Universal Steel property. Notice of this meeting was posted on December 21st, 2015 at 10:54 a.m. All councilors are present. Council President Josh Terrell presiding. And first is before this, I'll just give everybody a quick overview of the schedule and ground rules for tonight from the chair. This is, as we discussed, this is a special meeting of the City Council. This is not a regular meeting. We do not have a public comment period as part of this, or is it available. We are, at this particular meeting, we are not taking any definitive actions regarding this property. We are simply going to be making procedural votes to determine when and how we're going to hold the various hearings and meetings related to this proposal of the project. After this meeting is completed at 7 o'clock, the planning department will be running, along with the developer, an informational meeting to show an overview of the process and involved in this and their proposed plans. And then again, you'll be able to discuss this in great detail at all the various city council and planning board and joint public hearings that are going to be throughout this process. Having gone through the surplus process a couple of years ago with the Riley Plaza property, it's a lengthy process and there's a lot of time for everything to be heard. But this is just about getting everything back into order properly. So first we have, Cheryl, do you bring this part first? Or?
I can do that.
All right.
The matter to discuss scheduling a public hearing on the matter of declaring a parcel of property as surplus known as discussing setting a public hearing, Plan of Land 297-305 Bridge Street at the former Universal Steel property.
Councilor Sargent.
I would move that we hold a public hearing on that matter on January 19th at 6:30. The matter of declaring the land surplus.
Councilor Sargent moves to hold a public hearing on January 19th, 2016.
January 19th.
Councilor Epley.
I move to amend that be scheduled for January 26th.
Councilor Epley is offering the amendment that it be scheduled for January 26th.
I move to not amend. There's a lot of other things on the agenda that night. The surplus, I've promised people from the beginning that we deal one step at a time. The surplus is the first step. If we decide to surplus, it moves forward. If we decide to not surplus, the matter ends. We can't hold a public hearing for everything on the same night. We can't hold a public hearing to decide to make something surplus. That's step 3 in the city ordinance, step 1, 2, and 3, and a public hearing for step 8 to sell it on the same night. We're not following the city ordinance by doing that. We have to declare land surplus before we decide to move forward. And we can't have those two meetings on the same night. It deserves its own hearing. So I'll yield for now.
My motion still stands, but I've not heard a second yet.
Yeah. All right. Is there a second on, well, right now we have the motion to amend. Leave. Councilor Flamenco.
I second it.
Change.
The good word for Councilor's motion.
Okay.
I should get mine voted on first, as far as having the meeting first.
Well,
It's not a motion to amend, it's a motion to change. Motion to amend is to add something. This isn't a motion to change the date that I have here, that I've asked for.
So, Madam City Clerk, what's the, procedurally, the, on the motion to, which motion do we go first with in this one here?
Yeah, I have it here.
Is a motion to amend, would that be, Bart?
Yeah, I think we are, but there's.
About a date, that was about, that's a public hearing. There was nothing on the agenda with a date for this meeting, because we said we couldn't. I've proposed a date.
Yeah, that was
Right.
nice,
Right.
because they were talking about the date of the 26th to do.
Right.
Why? None of these other ones have dates on
I
them.
proposed a date, and we didn't put a date on the agenda. They can vote me down.
Is there an amendment or change?
Well, let me just post it on. Right. Well, these two things are-
Yeah.
These things are already in committee. Is that right?
No, those are resubmitted.
Huh?
They're resubmitted.
But they're resubmitted, but they're
They're resubmitted. Everything was,
meeting agenda was for the rezoning. And we'll have a public meeting.
so what's your motion gonna be?
To do this, is to have a public hearing on this, and then begin the rezoning. These things, but if they go to committee of the whole, it'll be redone. All right. Yeah.
Oh, Councilor Sargent.
I asked for a roll call vote, if necessary, on having the meeting on Tuesday, January 19th, for a public hearing about declaring the land surplus. I asked that we not have all the meetings on one night on the 26th. We're gonna have a meeting on the 26th about every single thing that's involved in this, from A to Z. How do we call that an open and transparent public process? We have land, no matter what kind of land you have in the city, if you want to decide to make it surplus, you have to decide to make it surplus first. That's the first step. Steps 1, 2, and 3 are to get the land, the parcels you may want to consider surplus together, make a list of them, and step 3, the mayor and the city council approves making them surplus. We are at step 3. We're being asked, then comes the RFP and evaluating the property, and step 8 is disposing of the property, selling it. What sense does it make to make step 3 and step 8 the same night? All right? There's all kinds of debate on whether or not this land should be surplus or not. And this is a very complicated process. But instead, we wanted to have a public hearing on the 26th to talk about making it surplus, selling it, changing zoning, and discontinuing a city street. What's that gonna be, a 12-hour meeting? We need to go from step 1, 2, 3, 4 all together. Each process, the zoning has 8, 9, 10 steps or so in it. To do one step at a time. You don't do all step 1 through 8 at the same time. This is about making the land surplus first. If it passes, we move on. If that fails, everything else becomes a moot point, the process ends. Declaring this land surplus or not, debating whether it's needed by the city or not, deserves its own night, its own meeting. And that's why I'm calling for a public hearing, meeting, committee of the whole meeting, whatever, on that issue alone. And that's what it deserves to be done. You go through high school, you go to freshman year, finish it, then sophomore year, then finish it, junior year, then finish it, then senior year. You don't do all 4 years at once. We're being asked to do all 4 years at once here. The process, if you read the zoning, and common sense also, says that you decide if land is surplus, if you want to put it up for sale before you sell it. Not too many people put their house up for sale and sell it on the same day, right? Everything people come in to debate about whether or not this should be surplus is just saying to them, you can speak all you want, but we don't really care what you have to say, because whether or not we decide to make it surplus or what you have to say any kind of facts you bring in mean nothing, because we're gonna talk about selling it the same night. Is that the process we wanna put for the people that live around this piece of property and the city as whole? That we're gonna do in the zoning ordinance, step 3 and step 8, decide if it's surplus or not, and decide if we wanna sell it on the same night? And somehow the RFP comes in between that also. So I guess we can take a break to do the RFP in between that, and steps 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the ordinance, so. My motion is to have a public hearing on January 19th, Tuesday at 6:30. And I ask for a roll call vote on that, please.
Councilor Epley.
Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry, what is the current matter currently before this body?
The matter right now is to decide at the timing and what we are going to be holding to regard it at this moment, what we're going to do about the surplus declaration.
Isn't my motion to amend, which has been seconded, the present issue before the body?
It actually is. It is.
Your motion to amend, you said that is the currently before, okay, so the motion to amend, which is currently before us. So we vote on the amendment, and we vote on your motion to amend, and then do so. We could do so by show of hands or by roll call vote, and let's
I
get
just
through
wanted to ask where we were, so what
Okay.
we're voting on.
Ask for a roll call vote.
Councilor Famico.
Mr. President, prior to any vote, may I ask for suspension of the rules to either allow the city solicitor or the planning department to kind of go over the process? And if we were to hold this public hearing then, just to reiterate what the steps would be. So if we did the public hearing, it doesn't necessarily even mean it would be closed that evening, correct?
Correct. So Councilor Famico's asking for suspension of the rules to allow the question to be answered. Do I, seeing no objection? Would either the mayor or the,
See if I can help
Briefly.
clarify things. We're involved in the disposition of city-owned land that also has an unconstructed public way through it, that in order for the proposal that we're recommending to move forward would also need a rezoning change. So in the past, I don't believe it's been completely unusual for us to bring that to the council as one proposal, meaning it's hard to know if you want to surplus anything or rezone anything without really knowing what's proposed for the next phase. So for us, we need 4 council actions: rezoning of the parcel, discontinuance of the unconstructed portion of Beckford Way that goes through that parcel, allowing us to declare the property surplus, and then authorizing us to sell the parcel. 3 of those require some form of a public hearing. The rezoning is a joint public hearing with the planning board. The discontinuance of the unconstructed way also by statute requires a public hearing. And then within our city ordinance, in order prior to selling or disposing of city-owned land, we require a public hearing. The surplus doesn't technically require a public hearing, but we think generally when people come to these hearings, we end up jumbling a lot of issues together because concerns may not be related to one, but multiple, or some, but not all. And so we do have the opportunity to have a public hearing. We're proposing it for the 26th because we also need the planning board there. There are other dates. We've also talked to the petitioner about availability so that we could have all the information present and have robust conversations. It doesn't mean that the public hearings need to close that night. You know, it would just need to be something that could be continued if there was additional discussion. We're looking forward to discussion on this. As the council knows, we submitted this in November. We've been waiting a long time to talk about this. We know we've had the holidays, we've had some an election and some transfer over, so we're excited about the chance to provide additional information and get the ball rolling on the conversation that we think is important. And some of this is laid out in the presentation that we were hoping to put on, along with the petitioners from Webb's are here to share with the council and others who are here some of their proposed ideas about reuse of the property. Is that helpful?
thank you. Councilor Milo.
Mr. President, if I may, through you to the mayor, if we accept the Councilor at Large's motion to change the date to January 19th, how, that doesn't really change anything in terms of the 26th, it's just doing it sooner rather than later, right?
Well, we wouldn't have the plan, I don't know if the planning board's availability on the 19th at all, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch all of the motion that was proposed. Was it a public hearing just on the surplus?
It was just a
So,
surplus on the 19th?
I mean, that's up to the council. They're not, the public hearing isn't required. Like I said, we welcome the opportunity for conversation on this. Look forward to having a robust conversation. The 26th is the date we had in mind. I don't know what the advertising requirements are. You know, we've been trying to get meetings scheduled and work through changes in council presidencies and leadership and have an orderly process laid out so everybody knows when the meetings are, when they're taking place, what's gonna be discussed. That's been the goal of this, of trying to outline it in advance, make sure people have notice so that they're not being caught short. And when we can advertise and get into the newspaper and all of that play into this. So we certainly, you know, we'll be here whenever we need to be here. The 26th is the date we know planning board members have some availability, and that is a requirement with respect to the rezoning portion of this. So it would be helpful to be able to get that scheduled and get that on the books. Whatever else the council wants to do is up to them. It has not been unusual in the past to have all those happen, and then continue it if you need more time, which I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Milo.
Thank you, Mr. President. So then my next question is, if it is on the 19th, how does that affect advertising?
I have enough time.
You have enough time? Okay.
I would say, okay.
Councilor Sargent.
I would say, regardless of the night we talk about surplus, and I still believe it deserves to stand on its own, to have a meeting on its own. Simply because that's the step in the process in the ordinance, but also because if that should be decided on its own, is it surplus or not? Then, if it isn't, if it's decided not to make it surplus, we don't move forward. If it's decided to make it surplus, we move forward. It's besides being the city ordinance, it's common sense. And then step 4 begins the request for proposal process. I know we've already done that. And I didn't read the ordinance before we've ever sold other pieces of land. And the ordinance was brought to my attention by somebody else. And then I read the ordinance. And having read it, we're obliged to follow it. We're sworn to follow it, right? We have a process here. And I still believe by ordinance, there's a number beside each process. There's a number there for a reason. So you do step 1, then step 2, then step 3. We're being asked to surplus this property. That's all we should be talking about, and nothing else should happen until we decide whether or not to surplus it. It can be a long debate, it can be an easy debate. We all know, we've all heard gist of the RFP and what's proposed there. But as far as following the ordinance, we're supposed to decide, is this land surplus? Does the city need it or not? We're not supposed to decide step 3, then have an RFP, then have it appraised, then decide if we're gonna sell it and talk about that all at the same night. Otherwise, there'd be no numbers beside these steps. It'd just be one big something thrown at you. Let's do everything at once. There's an orderly, whoever put these ordinances together, put them together for a reason. And because we haven't been following them in the past, is that a reason for us to not follow them now? This is a pretty important piece of land, as with anything, regardless of what. If somebody thinks Salem Common is surplus, or Riley Plaza, or some island out in the harbor, we're supposed to decide that on its own merit. Is that land needed by the city? Is it something we can use or not? And then if we decide we don't need it anymore, then we declare it surplus. So I would ask us to follow the ordinance and have a hearing on step 3 first before we decide to move on to step 4.
Councilor Epley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for suspension of the rules to ask a question of the city solicitor.
Certainly.
Madam City Solicitor, some of the questions that were just raised by the good councilor at large was relative to whether or not we're following the city ordinances by having the public hearings take place on the 26th. In your legal opinion, is the city following the city ordinances by having the surplus hearing, public hearing at the same time as other public hearings on the 26th?
There is no requirement to have a public hearing on the surplus. There are requirements for public hearings as the mayor outlined. We've followed this practice many, many times. I mean, as the mayor explained, it's often important to hear all of the issues, and particularly about the discontinuance of the street, and to address that before a surplus is decided. So there's a lot of education and hearing from the public and the neighbors that will weigh into the council's decision. to ultimately surplus, which has to happen before the disposition.
Councilor Dilly, you wish to speak?
Yes. My question, through the President, my question was similar to Councilor Epley's. Wondering if through the President, if the city solicitor or the city planner can clarify step by step what the ordinance, the proper procedure, as well as, and I don't have it before me in my package, I believe that we're due a letter of support from the building inspector and the city planner to have us declare this property surplus. That is one of the 8 steps, I believe. That needs to be present as well. I don't think we have that. So if, through the President, if the city solicitor or the city planner can clarify the proper order of what we really need to do. Thank you.
Whenever property is being considered for disposal, the city planner sends a letter out with the building inspector to the other department heads and officials to determine whether there's any need for the property. That's part of the process, I believe, already happened many months ago.
Doesn't it?
With the departments.
We're supposed to approve it.
So the question before us, now is whether to amend the motion to hold a public hearing and amend that to move it to put it back on December or on January 26th as was written in the agenda.
President, if I might.
Briefly, Councilor.
Just briefly, but I believe that the question wasn't completely answered as far as, no, we don't have to hold a public hearing, but we're supposed to vote on it to be surplus or not. And because we don't have to hold a public meeting doesn't mean we're forbidden or outlawed from having one. We're supposed to have a public meeting about it, committee of the whole meeting. So I would like to call it a public hearing, we can call it committee of the whole. But we're supposed to meet on that process. I mean, this isn't that long an ordinance. Section D, procedure for disposal of city-owned developable parcels that should be disposed of by the request for proposals process shall be as follows. Now, we've already done a request for proposal, so we know this is a request for proposal, letter D. Number 1, the city planner and director of public property shall prepare for review and approval of the mayor and city council a listing of all land parcels that have been categorized as disposable by the request for proposal process. Number 2, it will be provided with each such parcel a brief description of the factors that have made such parcel one which the city should dispose of by request for proposal. Number 3, which I believe we're at now, upon approval of the list by the mayor and city council, that would be us, and that would mean we have to vote to declare it surplus, the city planner shall be instructed to dispose of such parcels by request for proposal. We haven't done that yet. That deserves to stand on its own. That's following the city ordinance, which we should be following, okay? Number 4, if we decide to make it surplus, the city planner shall then order an appraisal completed on each parcel to be disposed of in such a manner. And then 5, a request for proposal shall be prepared that defines the following, A through G. Now, we're not, even though that's happened, we're not at that step yet. As far as selling this land, logically, the first step is deciding if you want to sell it or not. And that's where we are in the city ordinance. And that decision needs to be debated and voted upon on its own merit. At that meeting, you can talk about what you want to do with it, but that meeting should be based on, do we want to make this land surplus or not? You can talk about your plans and already haven't done a request for proposals and everything else. But that meeting should be solely about, do we declare that surplus? Do we finish step 3 on our city ordinances before we move on to step 4? If you guys want to have the meeting, this council wants to have the meeting on step 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 all at once, then I'll have to yield the floor. But my motion is to have a meeting on the making it surplus first before we move forward, as the city ordinance says. So, thank you.
Councilor Gerard.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to clarify a few things that, so when we do public hearings, we're not actually voting on anything. That's just, so really, I think what my colleague is suggesting is a committee of the whole meeting so that we can vote on whether it's a surplus or not, whether we're going to declare it a surplus or not. So maybe a recommendation for an amendment to move to a committee of the whole meeting rather than a public hearing. And then the other piece that I think that it's more efficient to do everything on the same night and to at least have this be the first topic. And if by having the open, again, all of our meetings, other than executive session, all of our meetings are open to the public. So having that public discussion about whether or not this should be a surplus, and then voting on it, and then from there going through the next steps once we're all there in the same room. So we might as well do it on the 26th. So I support my colleagues' recommendation for the 26th.
So on the matter, this one, on the matter of whole, well, first we have the suggestion by Councilor Gerard that we also hold the committee of the whole session, that we hold a committee of the whole session concurrent with this, concurrent with the 26th public hearing, in order so that we can, if we so choose, just make the decision on surplus at that meeting. Is there a second to that?
Say again? Say that again, please.
Councilor Gerard's motion, as I understand it, was to also hold a committee of the whole meeting in conjunction with the public hearing, so that on surplus.
We have to vote on his before we do that.
Yeah.
Mr. President, and I'm going to take the lead from my other at-large colleague. If we're having a public meeting during a regularly scheduled city council meeting, we don't need a committee of the whole meeting, I believe. If
This isn't. But the 26th,
The 26th is not.
Our meeting's on the 28th.
We'll do this one later.
So that's not
Oh.
a special council meeting?
Fair enough.
Oh, it's a public hearing.
Got it. Never mind.
So Councilor Gerard, said Councilor Gerard's motion, which I believe we can take this and then take this motion and deal with it, and then vote on basically all the motion to the initial, and then move through the rest of this, is to hold a committee of the whole meeting for this matter in conjunction with the public hearings.
With the public hearing.
Councilor Dibble.
I'd like to offer a friendly amendment.
We're already amending amendments to amendments at this point, so.
I'd like to comment on that. It's a very good suggestion, but I'd like to ask that meeting be a public hearing so that
It will be.
the
It would be.
entire process be a public hearing, so
Yeah.
the people here are not shut out.
And also, just for clarification, all the committee meetings are in fact public meetings in
Not
that
public,
sense.
I'm asking for a public hearing where they can.
They
speak.
can at our committee meetings. We recognize, but they can.
Mr. President, I accept both Councilor Gerard and Councilor Dibble's friendly amendments to my underlining motion to amend.
But it's,
Okay.
they're redundant. Excuse, if I could, it's a redundancy. He's proposing, Councilor Gerard is proposing what you're proposing, to have all the meetings on the same night.
And also to hold committee of the whole meeting in conjunction with it on surplusing.
So that, again, we end up doing everything at once, and that's
Okay.
my main point is that we don't do everything at once.
Yep.
So you can help me all you want to try and do everything at once.
Yep.
I'm trying to make it so we don't do everything at once.
Understood.
And not to be disingenuous, but if we do this, we should amend this ordinance to have steps 1, 2, and 3, and make step 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 just a paragraph in step 3, because that's what, in effect, we're doing. We're gonna take step 3 through 8 and do it all at once. So why does the city ordinance need step 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8? They should just be paragraphs. Somebody must have been really remiss when they made this ordinance, if they never intended to follow it. And again, if we haven't followed it in the past, this process brings it to light. And once having found that mistake, we should be all the more diligent about following the process. So, I yield.
So, Council Lovely.
Thank you, Mr. President. It doesn't matter to me when the meeting's held. It's going to be a public hearing. If we have it on the 19th, there seems to be no reason why we can't have it on the 19th. We don't have to take a vote that night, have a public hearing, and then take the vote on the 26th. I understand Council Sargent's intent is to sort of spread out the burden so that we're not spending a great deal of time and rushing things through. I would expect there to be a long meeting on the 26th, if everything was the same. I don't want to vote against your amendment per se, and say I don't want to attend on the 26th, but I see no reason why we can't have a meeting on the 19th and then go from there. So I don't want to oppose your amendment, but I think the 19th, nobody's given a real reason why we can't have that meeting and split things up, so.
Thank you.
I believe there were advertising issues in holding it on the 19th.
No.
There were not? Okay.
Certainly,
All
if
right,
that
so
were
with
the
that,
case,
all right, Councilor McCarthy. So-
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, procedurally, all this could have been avoided if the good at-large counsel had read the order as written, then offered to amend, then we wouldn't be in this whole problem right now. Because what he did is he amended it before he read it. So we're kind of working backwards all against ourselves. Secondly, with regards to, no, you changed the date before you read the date. If you actually read the date of January 26, 2016, and then moved to amend it to another date, then your amendment would have been taken up first and we wouldn't be in this mess. But all that being said, I don't have a problem with meeting on the 19th with that, solely for the purpose of discussing whether or not the property is surplus. I don't want this to turn into a discussion about what could go there, what couldn't go there. The question in front of us at that night will be, do we want to entertain the idea of declaring this property surplus and going down this path? That's all we're talking about. At no point does it say, when you declare something surplus, do you have to sell it? That comes at the end. If you go through the ordinance as what's written, it comes at the very end. 2/3 votes of the city council. That's the end purpose. So if you want to have a meeting on the 19th, I don't disagree with that, but the sole purpose of that meeting is, there's a big piece of property. Do we think the city needs to keep that piece of property as city-owned property, or do we want to entertain the idea of putting it out for a proposal and selling it? Period. It's not about what could or couldn't go there and all that. It's about, because at that point, we don't even have a division. We haven't even, I mean, everyone's talked about the idea of Webb coming in. I haven't seen the proposal. I haven't talked to him about it. I don't even know what it looks like. I don't think, a few people may have been in this room, but, I mean, I know they've reached out to the neighbors, but at that point, let's all get a look at it. But at this point, if you want to have a separate meeting relative to surplus, then it should just be about surplus. It shouldn't be about proposals or anything. It should just be, do we want to entertain the idea of selling this piece of property and going down the road of what could go there if it's declared surplus? At the end, we come back to this room and decide whether or not we're going to sell it. 2/3 vote. It's in the ordinance as written. So you could say 1 through 4, 1 through 8, 3 through 8. It all comes down to, it goes through a process, and then at the end it comes back to us. Because at some point, whether it's declared surplus or not, if the city wants to dispose of a piece of property, it takes a 2/3 vote of the city council in order to dispose of it for whatever purpose it is. So if the will is to have a meeting on the 19th, I'll be here and discuss why we think it's surplus, why it shouldn't be surplus, and then have a vote if we keep going down the path.
So, on Councilor Epley's motion as amended by Councilor Gerard to hold, this is to move this meeting to the 26th and to hold a committee of the whole meeting on it concurrently that's the current motion that is before us, and Councilor Epley's seconded motion. So shall we do show of hands, or do we want a roll call vote on that?
Roll call.
President, I would just ask
Counselor.
that the motion be laid on the table so that we can act on the original motion, so we can decide if we're going to vote on the 19th. So Council Epley would lay his matter, we would vote to lay on the table, or we would withdraw it for the time being. We vote on the 19th, and if not, we'll go forward on his motion. That's what I think that's the will of the council, to find out are the votes there to hold on the 19th or not, so.
Fair enough. Councilor Famico?
Thank you. Just to clarify one more thing, if we were to hold this on the 19th, would that preclude us to go on to the next things and to schedule them for the 26th?
No.
No.
And if we did the 19th, we could make it either committee of the whole or a public hearing?
Committee of the whole.
Make them redundant.
Well, if we make a committee of the whole, it is effectively also a public hearing. Because it's open,
Public
it's a
meeting.
open public comment.
Public meeting versus public hearing.
We can do public hearing now. You're not restricted.
We never use those.
All right, so we're still on the initial proposal that hasn't yet been seconded. We'd moved on to the 26th was proposed before the initial matter was seconded. So
Wait a second, my vote on the 19th.
I guess I'd ask that, I think Council Epley knows what I'm trying to accomplish is either to withdraw his motion, you can always bring it back, or we vote on laying on the table so we can vote on the 19th. And
Well,
if either the votes are there on the 19th, or
Right.
they're not, then we can move to the 26th.
if we Counselor Epley, but then,
Mr. President,
try.
I appreciate the Ward 3 counselor and what he's saying. But going along with what the Ward 1 counselor had mentioned, our packets, which was arranged with, between the mayor and the city clerk, specifically state January 26, 2016, the order that was to be brought in by Counselor Sargent was supposed to be January 26th. He could have moved to amend. What I'm suggesting is, let's keep what the original intent was, which is essentially voting on the January 26th meeting first, and if that fails, then on my motion to amend, then it goes to the January 19th question, and we can vote on that and vote that in likely. So I'm not going to withdraw my motion.
And maybe that I
I
withdraw.
ask the matter, vote on the matter be laid, his motion be laid on the table.
so,
Might I suggest something?
Counselor Sargent.
And I understand what Council McCarthy said. I can withdraw my motion to have the meeting on the 19th so that we can have before us the meeting on the 26th, and then I'll amend it for the 19th, so that amendment can be voted on first, and then we would fall back to the 26th. Understood?
Yep.
If I withdraw the 19th, the 26th will be before us, and I will ask that that be amended to the 19th.
I thank the at-large counselor for that.
Thank you. So,
All right. So we will vote on Counselor Epley's motion.
I'll
Nope.
withdraw my motion.
No, we're not.
So Counselor Lovely withdraws his motion.
We'll have the meeting of the 26th before us.
Yes. So we have before us the proposal to hold the public hearing on the 26th concurrently, and we retain the holding committee of the whole concurrently with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that that's before us, to have the procedure be proper, I'll ask for an amendment to move the 26th meeting to the 19th.
Okay.
And that will be before us.
Counselor Milo.
Thank you.
I second it.
We'll second that. Okay.
Can I have a roll call vote, please?
So hold on. On the matter of a roll call vote on the matter of amending the order to hold the hearing on the 26th, and this is a roll call vote on the matter of amending that to hold it on the 19th. Should the amendment fail, then we are voting on holding it on the 26th.
Counselor, may I clarify or ask for clarification with respect to the order that's before you?
Okay?
The 26th was proposed to be a joint public hearing with the planning board. Planning board members are available on the 26th, and we have the time to advertise. Are we suggesting that's not gonna happen?
No.
Okay. So we're
We
going to
haven't
do the
moved-
19th and the 26th?
No, the motion, what is before us right now is, as was in the agenda, a motion to hold the hearing on declaring the property surplus on the 26th. Their other matters are also scheduled to,
So I just want to be clear that the 26th is what we are still hoping to have a
Yes,
joint
that is-
public hearing on with the planning board.
this is just a matter of surplusing, so,
So the amendment before us is to have the surplus to have a surplus public hearing on the 19th.
correct.
Okay.
Counselor McCarthy.
Just for clarification and with regards to, Mr. President, with regards to advertising, the meeting on the 19th, because there is no we do not have to have a meeting, a public hearing where the relative surplus, just for clarity, we'll make that a committee of the whole meeting so that we don't have to worry about advertisement.
It's not a worry.
It's because it's not a public hearing anyway, but anyway,
Not a worry.
whatever the will is, that's fine.
Now I need clarity. His motion was to amend the date for the public hearing to January 19th for the surplus property.
Correct.
Where does
Councilor
the
McCarthy.
committee of the whole-
If I could, then if the at-large council is willing, I believe the intent is to have a separate meeting relative to just the surplus on the 19th. So the amendment would be to hold, instead of having it part of the special public hearing on the 26th, that he's going to offer an amendment to
That's
have
his
a
amendment.
committee of the whole meeting on the 19th, just relative to
Yeah,
surplus.
right.
But I'll leave that to the good at-large council.
Counselor Sargent.
The agenda says public hearing, and the amendment is to amend it from the 26th to the 19th. So that's the amendment before us, to move the public hearing. We can schedule a committee of the whole meeting the same night, same time, but the motion is for a public hearing as written. And the amendment is to move it to the 19th by roll call vote, please.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Wait, can,
Oh,
I'm
Counselor
sorry,
Gerard.
Mr. President, okay, so clarification, a yes vote means,
To hold the meeting, to hold this, accept, Counselor Sargent has moved to amend the public hearing request for the 26th to be on the 19th.
okay, so yes
So a
means
yes is to
19th,
move it to the
no
19th,
means
a no is to
26th.
hold it on the
No
26th.
means then we have to go vote on it.
No means you have to vote on.
Yeah, and then we have to vote on again for the
Okay.
26th, should that be the
If
case.
you want 26th.
If you want the 26th, you vote no on this. If you want the 19th, you'll vote yes on this. Madam City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Counselor Dibble.
If I could just ask that the question be reread, please.
The question is to hold the public hearing. This is, we are voting, a roll call vote on Counselor Sargent's amendment to hold, on his amendment to have the public hearing on the 19th rather than on the 26th, as it is written in the agenda.
Thank you. Yes.
Counselor Epley?
No.
Counselor Famiko?
No.
Counselor Fury?
No.
Counselor Gerard?
No.
Counselor Lovely?
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy?
Yes.
Counselor Milo?
Yes.
Counselor Ryan?
No.
Counselor Sargent?
Yes.
Counselor Turiel?
No. On the matter of amending the date of public hearing to January 19th, 2016 for surplus property, 11 counselors present, 11 counselors voting, 5 in the affirmative, 6 in the negative. The matter does not carry. So on the motion to hold the public hearing on January 26th, 2016, do we need a roll call vote for that, or just show of hands? So on the matter to hold on the motion to hold a public hearing on January 26, 2016, all those in favor? All those opposed?
Opposed.
So moved. Communications from the mayor.
We have an ordinance to amend an ordinance relative to zoning map change for the parcel of real property situated at 297-305 Bridge Street, the former Universal Steel site, currently zoned R2 residential 2 family, to be rezoned to B4 business, wholesale, and automotive.
Councilor Famigo?
Move to refer to the planning board to schedule a joint public hearing with the city council, and I ask for that to be held on the same night as the matter previous.
Councilor Famigo moves that it be referred to the planning board to schedule a joint public hearing with the city council on the January 26th, seconded by Councilor Epley. Under discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? So moved. Further communications from the mayor.
We have an order to declare a parcel of land approximately 52,491 square feet and parcel B approximately 1,260 square feet, former Universal Steel site at 297-305 Bridge Street as surplus property, and that the surplus designation is conditional upon the placing of a permanent utility easement on parcel A.
Councilor Famigo.
Thank you. I move to this be referred to a public hearing, also on the same date. And I suppose due to the previous comments that also be considered part of the committee of the whole meeting.
Okay. Councilor Famigo moves that it be, that we hold a public hearing on the concurrent and also refer to the committee of the whole. Seconded by Councilor Epley.
Point of clarification, we're gonna have a public hearing and put a committee of the whole, so we're gonna have the committee of the whole meeting also on it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be before the public hearing, probably, right? Or after the public hearing? Should be before the public hearing, right? Committee of
We'll
the
work
whole
out the
meeting?
scheduling on the agenda.
Right, and these 3 items on this page are already in the committee of the whole, carried forward from last year also, so there's a
So
redundancy.
the administration withdrew and resubmitted them.
Right, but they don't leave the committee of the whole. They're already there, so you can resubmit them, but they're already in the committee of the whole. So we have to have a committee of the whole meeting anyways. So the motion here should just be referred to committee of the whole. You can have a meeting and decide to have a public hearing after that, but they should be one step than the other.
So, on Counselor Famico's motion, seconded by Counselor Epley to hold this in the concurrent with the public meeting and also refer it to the committee of the whole. No further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? So moved. Further communications from the mayor.
I have a question.
Sorry.
If you've referred this to committee of the whole, then it can't have the public hearing until you hold the committee of the whole meeting.
So we would schedule the committee of the whole meeting to immediately precede that.
But that could snag us with, depending on when you hold that committee of the whole meeting, could snag us for the advertisement timeframe.
All right, I'll work that out quickly with it. Counselor Famico?
Ms. City Clerk, but the previous ones, we also said concurrent with the public hearing from the first one we did tonight.
Nothing was referred to the committee of the whole, though.
No.
These were all
That wasn't seconded.
resubmitted.
Also,
If I may then, how can we amend this then, so then that doesn't happen?
You can withdraw the part about the committee of the whole,
Public hearing, everything.
just have the public
Withdraw the
hearing.
part about, if I
Right.
may, Mr. President, I'd like to withdraw the part about the committee of the whole then, since it's already been carried over as the good at-large council.
well, we have to have the committee of the whole meeting
And we'll do that.
for the public hearing. It's already in there.
It's been resubmitted,
Right.
so it's not in committee yet.
So
There is one in committee,
Right.
but it's sitting there. She's resubmitted everything, so it's now new again. Do you see what I'm saying?
So the one in committee goes away?
It's sitting there.
It gets a new number and everything.
Okay. That a portion of public street or way known as Beckford Way to be discontinued as a highway of the city.
Counselor Famico?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move this to be held at a public hearing on Tuesday, January 26, 2016.
All right. Seconded by Counselor Famico moves that a public hearing be held on Tuesday, January 26th, seconded by Counselor Epley. All those in favor? Opposed? So moved. Further communication from the mayor.
We have an order to convey a portion of 297 Bridge Street, the former Universal Steel site, of approximately 1,260 square feet to Sun King LLC with a permanent pedestrian and vehicular access on the entire parcel for the benefit of 3032 Beckford Street for the sum of $10,001.
Counselor Famico?
Thank you, Mr. President. I hereby move that a public hearing on the disposition of city-owned parcels located at the former Universal Steel site, 297 through 305 Bridge Street, and a portion of Beckford Way, be held on Tuesday, January 26, 2016.
Counselor Famico moves that a public hearing on the disposition of the city-owned parcels located at the former Universal Steel site be held on Tuesday, January 26, 2016. Seconded by Counselor Ryan. All those in favor? Opposed? So moved. Further communications from the mayor.
We have an order to authorize the mayor to enter into land disposition agreement with Sun King LLC to convey a portion of 297 Bridge Street, the former Universal Steel site, which includes a permanent utility easement for the sum of $990,000.
Counselor Famico.
Thank you. I move to hold a public hearing on Tuesday, January the 26th, 2016.
Counselor Famico moves to hold a public hearing on Tuesday, January 26, 2016. I have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Gerard. All those in favor? Opposed? So moved. Counselor Fury.
Mr. President, I make a motion to adjourn.
Counselor Fury moves to adjourn. All those in favor? Opposed? So moved. We are adjourned. Mayor Driscoll?
Yeah, thank you. Folks ready? We'll get going. Take it on.
What's the third vote, so it was after?
So I just want to take a minute to recap a little bit about
To declare two parcels.
how we got here.
Public hearings.
So many of you may recall back in 2006, this property was one of our highest tax title properties while we're getting this PowerPoint set up.
Same thing as the first one.
Owing us almost $300,000 at that time in back taxes. Wasn't until 2012 that we were actually able to take the property. And it took a fair amount of advanced work, working with DEP, EPA, Mass Development to pull together the resources. One of the reasons the city had never taken the property for tax title, all those years it had been in that state, the owner had abandoned it, was due to the hazardous materials that were on site. In the end, it totaled almost $4 million of hard costs. That's not including all the technical and in-kind services we got from EPA and DEP along the way.
You think you can do this to us? You think you can be efficient? Is it efficient to go through 4 or 5 steps in one night just because you want to be efficient? Is that right? Do you know that this is affecting people? Do you know that?
So you need to sit down.
Sir,
You care about being efficient? Well, that's nonsense.
just trying to provide information, sir. Thank you. So as I was saying, we ended up taking this property for tax title back in 2012. At the time, it was over $300,000 by that time. The real rationale behind that was trying to have temporary parking for the new T-station. By that time, we had been working closely with the MBTA and felt like we finally had our legs under us to get that project moving forward. During construction, we knew that site would be closed down and we'd need a location for commuters to park. We put the wheels in motion again, working with several state and federal agencies to try and take what was a very contaminated site, definitely an eyesore, and turn it into temporary parking, always with the notion that at the conclusion of the need for the temporary parking, we'd be putting out an RFP, we would be interested in looking at potential opportunities for redevelopment of the site. I know we had several meetings at the time with the neighborhood relative to the process. The EPA is a very public process. I know some of you were involved in that as well in terms of the manner in which they'd be remediating the site, the work ahead, and lastly, going into the last phase, which is the temporary parking lot, talking about how that would be set up. So let me try and work through. I'm sorry for all the confusion. I don't know how we got to this point. We filed this in November. We had to refile it in January because of the timeline. We've been working with 2 council presidents to try and get a slate of meetings set up that had some order to it. It's not the most complex process before us. We've done dispositions before. We've done rezoning before. There's a few dribs and drabs that make this one a little more complex because there's an unconstructed way, because the parcels are broken up. But the idea here is to really look at this in a way that enables us to review items comprehensively. And by that I mean, we put out an RFP, we have a proposer, it's a well-known business. I don't think it came to a surprise, was a surprise to anybody in the room that Webb's, located just next door, was interested in the site. They'd been talking about looking to make a showroom or grow and expand in Salem for a number of years. So we're kind of excited about where we're at. When I look at that site and look at, as we go through some of the slides and you hear from Webb's, I don't know how we got so off track that we just spent 45 minutes trying to figure out when to have a public hearing. But we really are trying to make sure we're hearing from people, that we're giving people an opportunity to see what's proposed, and that we're doing it in an orderly way. This is the second time we've had a packed chamber at a meeting where this wasn't even going to be talked about the last time. That was when it was initially submitted to the council. So I hope people are encouraged after they see some of this, and that we've laid out a schedule that people can know when we're going to be acting or when we're going to be talking about something, and the council can be clear about what their actions are going forward. As far as I know, this is the process. We declare something surplus, we get an appraisal, we have an RFP, we get proposals in, and then we bring it to this body. And that's the way we've acted in the past for other properties, and we certainly, aren't trying to do anything to detract from the process, and certainly we are following the ordinance. I want to be clear about that.
I don't believe we are.
Let me just get through this, and then we're gonna hear from Webbs. So as I talked about, we're hoping that this can be an informational meeting. And again, we tried to schedule this with the council. This really was supposed to be a special meeting where we were talking about it at a council meeting. I don't know where it got off track. Councilor Turriel and Councilor Sargent, we had several conversations throughout the holidays and when this was in, that this was gonna be part of a council discussion. Somewhere along the line, it turned into a planning department informational meeting. It's an informational meeting, for sure, but I anticipated this being a regular council meeting for us to do this. The history, we want to certainly go through the history of the redevelopment. We want to clarify the actions that are required of the council. We want to hear from FW Webb. They've spent certainly time and resources trying to look at this site. They're excited about their proposal, as are we, and I think people should hear from them about what they're proposing. Go through the public hearings that are required. As we've already talked about, there are a number of hearing requirements for the actions that are planned out. And then in addition to the council acting, assuming they adopt the proposal that we've asked them to, this also requires planning board and conservation approvals, all of which require public hearings as well. The 4 actions that we talked about involve rezoning, discontinuance of the public way, declaring the parcel surplus, and then authorizing the approval to sell the parcels. Sorry, my clicker's not working. There, oop, now it worked too fast. There we go. Oop, all right, perfect. So this gives you obviously an overview of the parcels from the top. And I say parcels because in addition to Lot 1, which is the parcel we're most familiar with as Universal Steel, there's a parcel in the back that's also generally part of that same property. You wouldn't think of it as different, but it was subdivided out. There is the unconstructed public way or unconstructed portion of Beckford Street, and then there's the Alpha Auto lot that Webbs has acquired in the hopes of combining these parcels for their redevelopment. Dominic, do you think you can help? I'm sorry, it's not working so well. So discontinuance of the public way, primarily this strip right here is parcel A. That does require a public hearing and a vote by council. Oh man, now it's got a mind of its own, guys, sorry. I'll let you do it, okay? Thank you. So that, it's for those who are familiar with the area, that's a good look at what that Beckford Way looks like right now, or looked like before we had a parking lot over a portion of it. This is the Universal Steel parcels, both that Lot 1 and that rear parcel B. Again, requires a vote by the council, and we're looking for those to be declared surplus. Next up would be the ability to enter into a deed on what we call a land disposition agreement to sell those both the small strip, parcel A, and the larger Lot 1 and the little parcel behind it to Webbs. And that does require a public hearing and a vote by the council. That's a 2/3 vote by council for folks who aren't familiar with that. That's the smaller piece, also part of it. They're broken up a little differently to Webbs. I hope you can see how some of these parcels are related, the way, the 2 different parcels, and the declaration of surplus and to dispose of them are all related. Some historic photos, obviously a lot of folks are familiar with what it looks like today, but not too long ago it looked like that big old broken down building that was on the site. So I've talked a little bit about the background. This was a site that was used to salvage scrap metals. Cleanup was in the process many, many years ago with DEP, but the owner essentially walked away from it, declared bankruptcy, site was abandoned. The tax titles with interest was up to $600,000 by the time we actually acquired it. We got involved and have been working on it since 2007. It was definitely no small feat to bring all those resources together, but we certainly did not like the way this looked and actually thought it could have some functionality short-term with the goal of redeveloping the site. I think we've always been clear of that and talking to the council about that and talking to the neighborhood that we saw this as a temporary use as a parking lot. And frankly, there were concerns about the parking lot. I think we worked to try and ameliorate lights and drainage and make sure that people understood that we're only going to be doing this for a short term. I've talked a little bit about the background. That lays it out in a little bit greater detail, where some of those cleanup costs are. And where the dollars came from. We did put a lot of effort on EPA and DEP to help us with that, so there was significant in-kind donations from them in terms of technical assistance and personnel that, you know, we're up over $4 million when you start adding these numbers together along with that. Some of the work that was done on site, underway. Definitely had a period of time where there was a lot of heavy construction out there. This is, again, just reports to the timeline, what's happening in terms of both the work from DEP and EPA, meetings we've had with residents and abutters to talk about not only that work as a parking lot, but what was going on with the RFP. We have worked to try and keep everybody informed. We know it abuts properties very closely, and we want people to know what's happening there and what our approach has been going forward. Current status is we do have an appraisal on the property. The current proposal is meeting that appraisal at $990,000. The appraisal does not take into account additional cleanup that may be required by Webb's, in fact, where their footings or foundations are going. We are working with the EPA and Webb's technical assistance to try and determine what those additional costs are, and have talked with Webb's about the notion of a TIF or some other mechanism to make up for that if, in fact, there are extraordinary costs related to the additional cleanup. This site was heavily contaminated with the worst materials that require the highest cleanup costs. So we are anticipating there may be additional costs necessary to be incurred. If that's the case, we would come in and talk with the council and talk with Webb's about a TIF to offset those additional costs, because it certainly wasn't taken into consideration with the city's appraisal, which is currently at the $990,000. We also wanted to make sure we were addressing some of the access issues. There is a property in the back that Rolf owns who has a tenant that uses there, and parks and access. The hill, it strikes me, I call it the Billy Goat Hill at the end of the road. It seems like it's tough, but we do know that there are some people who do use it, so we wanted to make sure that access was still protected and allowable on this site, and you'll see as we go forward, we've accounted for that. The proposal by Webb's, which they can talk more about, is to include a showroom and a warehouse. There are other facilities, Webb's facilities like this in other communities, so we're excited about the opportunity to have something like that here and see a company that's been here for at least 50 years grow and expand. So some of the reasons that we're positive about this project is just the ability to eliminate the eyesore. We certainly took the curse off of it with the parking lot from what was there, but we do think, and there's value in a redevelopment of this site, particularly on a commercial redevelopment. Obviously that new growth will equal tax revenues. The estimated new values based on other Webb's showrooms and other communities that are similar size in nature is about $3 million. We know that Webb is a good business and that they want to stay in Salem. They've been looking for a place for a number of years, so we appreciate the opportunity to work with them to find a location here, continue employment opportunities not only for their current employees, but for additional growth that they hope to accomplish as part of this project. And we think it's an improvement on this section of Bridge Street. It can only help in terms of addressing some of the eyesores that exist. I can frequently recall us having issues and concerns about the used car lot that was right next door. It's been closed for a number of years, but that's probably not the best type of activity that we want to have next door to a residential neighborhood, and we feel like this is an improvement. Webb's is already in the neighborhood right next door, so it's certainly a known commodity as well. I do want to introduce the Webb's team as well. So Bob Muccaroni from FW Webb has been our key point of contact. The person on the ground at Webb's, Bob Mafficek, many folks may know if they're in the website, and then your team from Greenleaf Construction and Engineering's Andrew Macbeth, and then Attorney Carenti, who's representing them. And at this point, I'd be happy to have Attorney Carenti or Mr. Muccaroni come forward to make additional remarks and presentations. And again, I really, I regret that there's confusion about this. We're trying to find an orderly way to have conversation and share information. We know there's lots of public hearings along the way, and we appreciate the input that we've had to date. We're looking forward to receiving more input. We want this project to be positive for everybody, and we think there's an opportunity to do that. And laying out an orderly schedule to have that conversation seems like the best way to accomplish that. And we've been trying to have meetings since the first week in November when we filed this. It was difficult to get anything scheduled. I'm glad that we had this date, and you know, I'm hoping that it'll be easier if we think about having a date going forward to manage the conversation too. So I don't know if this is working, so we might just, you can give it a try, but I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Mayor, Mr. President, members of the council. Webb's very excited to be here this evening. We're happy that we're able to launch this process right away in the new year. We're looking forward to the expedited process as as you all heard and voted on and discussed earlier, this is a process, and there are many votes and hearings that need to take place, and we're happy and excited to get that going. I'm Joseph Correnti, 63 Federal Street, representing the project team as a local permitting council. We have a small PowerPoint this evening that we'd like to show you, which discusses Webb and a bit of the history. It's sort of a past, present, and future look at the company and the site that we're doing, and we'll move through this fairly quickly, as we know the evening is getting long. So I'd like to call up Bob Maffichuk, is our store manager here in Salem, and he'll discuss some of the first slides.
Good evening, Mayor Driscoll, City Council members, Planning Department members, City Hall personnel. I've been working for Webb at 295 Bridge Street for the past 25 years. As Mayor Driscoll mentioned, we come here tonight to present our plan to redevelop Universal Steel and our efforts to remain in Salem. We're not a newcomer. We started out down by the police station on Endicott Street in 1944. We got moved due to the train station and relocated to 295 Bridge Street in about 1950. Not a lot has changed in our building. Although the way we go to market has changed dramatically in the 70 years we have been in Salem. Our location has remained the same due to the fact that it's a mill-style building and hard to get some efficiencies out of it. Our effort over the last 10-plus years was to remain in Salem, but at the same time be viable. We need to modernize to be able to compete and go to market the way our competitors do. The plumbing, heating, and HVAC industry has changed, and we need to be able to offer local contractors, people of Salem, and surrounding towns choices to browse our store and utilize a showroom. Our current facility is no showroom. It's got a very small counter area. You can imagine, tubs are on the 5th floor, water heaters are on the 4th floor, working in the 5-story warehouse is anything but efficient for our operation. Currently, we have 14 employees. Our proposed facility would include a showroom, would include what we consider like a self-serve area, more like a big box store where you come in with the gondolas and you pick out your material. High bay warehouse, and additionally adding the showroom and growing the business, would be looking at adding 8 to 10 full-time employees. We would be moving our entire operation out of the 5-story building into this new building, allowing for redevelopment of the existing building, to which Andy Macbeth from Greenleaf is going to inform you a little about that. I thank you.
Can I interrupt for one moment? Could I just ask, if you are taking photos, that you turn off the sound on your devices? It's interrupting the flow of the presentation a bit. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Andrew Macbeth with Greenleaf Construction. I'm going to take you through the building plans of what's proposed. Are you doing it? Okay. So here are some pictures that you've already seen this evening. On the left, we have the Universal Steel facility as it was up until 2007. On the right, we have the current street view of the temporary parking lot. Next, we have the Alpha Auto site. Looking both ways, you can see Webb's existing building in the right picture, way in the back. On the left picture, you can see Beckford, the paper street, and the Alpha Auto site. So on this plan here, we have the civil plan of the proposed building in yellow, overlaid on top of the aerial. On the very far right, we have the existing FW Web building. On the very far left, we have the Alpha Auto site. It's hard to see on this plan, but there's two red lines that go up the center of the page just to the left of the building, and that's the proposed utility easement. We have 3 curb cuts proposed, one on the right, which will be used for mostly customers and some employees. We have the one in the middle, which is one-way, which is intended for the trucks to be able to come in and then back up to the loading docks, which are in the little notch out in the bottom left-hand corner. And we have a third curb cut all the way to the left, which is for ingress and egress, both mostly for trucks. On the right side of the plan, we have parking up against Webb's existing facility. That parking is intended mostly for customers in the self-serve that Bob mentioned, and also for the showroom. And in the bottom right will be some kind of employee parking. Working our way around the bottom of the plan, there'll be a small outside storage area. You can see the 2 gates, and there's a one-way arrow kind of coming around the back of the building. And then we have the 2 loading docks that I mentioned before. And then on the left, kind of on the top, is employee parking. And there's a few employee parking spaces on the left side of the building. The utility easement is in the red, like I mentioned. That will continue. That exists today, and that has the sewer and gas and drainage pipes in it. On the very bottom, it's hard to see on this, but we'll go to the next slide. We have the pedestrian access, which is in the green on this page. So this will give folks on River Street and Beckford Road access through to Bridge Street in the green. The blue is the vehicular access for 3032 Beckford Street to the rear of their parcel opposite the loading docks. And you can see the red lines here a little clearer, which is the utility easement. And you can also see the loading docks, which are also a little clearer here. Moving on, this is inside the building. We have the first floor here. The blue is the self-serve area, which is the wholesale area. The top picture is a self-serve counter. And this is what you would see when you come in that door, which is right in the center on the right, where Web employees would take orders, and it's basically the checkout counter. The picture on the bottom is what the gondolas look like that Bob referenced. In the yellow is the warehouse. It's roughly 13,000, almost 14,000 square feet, and the self-serve is almost 13,000. So that gets us to 26,000 and change, almost 27,000 for the footprint. On the second floor, which is the blue and the red, the yellow is not second floor, that's open to the warehouse below. We have the showroom that we've talked a lot about. Here are some pictures. The top picture and the left picture are what the showroom will look like. It displays all of the products that are available. And then below that, below the blue is the red, is the office, which is to support the entire building for both the self-serve, the warehouse, and the showroom. Inside of that, you can't really see it on this plan, but there's a training room, and that's what that bottom picture is on the right. The benefits, just in summary, for the city of Salem, significant tax revenue increase for the city for both this project and the future project of redeveloping Webb's existing facility. Brings new jobs to Salem, keeps existing Webb jobs local, additional environmental cleanup at the Universal Steel site, as the mayor mentioned, and 3 Bridge Street properties will be cleaned up: Alpha Auto, Universal Steel, and the current Webb location. And the last slide we have is just a rendering that most folks have seen in the paper that went in with the RFP, but we wanted to put it up here so everyone can see it.
So in addition to the 26th, we mentioned that there'll be obviously the public hearings that were just agreed to. Webbs will be back at that point. Planning board members will be there. There's a number of public processes that we'll have to go through with the council. If the project is successful in being approved with respect to the disposition, the next phase would be for Webbs to go before the planning board for both site plan review and the Conservation Commission to address wetland resource areas, all of which, again, are public hearings as well. We can certainly understand There's a lot of moving parts when you're talking about taking an area that's now a parking lot, was formerly a scrap metal dealership, and redeveloping it into something else, another commercial use. And definitely, many of you are familiar with our planning board process where a lot of those issues get addressed, but certainly we welcome to hear from people what they are as we go forward, the 26th at this public hearing, a chance to learn more, and even in advance, any opportunity to gain information from residents and counselors, issues, concerns, or comments are helpful to the process along the way. There certainly is no desire to try and limit that or to take away any ability to ensure that we have a robust conversation about these issues, and we look forward to it. I think, John, the intention was with this council that they were going to move these things to the public hearing and that there wasn't going to be a lot of Q&A this evening, and I believe that's what was told to individuals. So, I mean, we certainly spread the word about the fact that we'd be having this meeting, and I envisioned it being a council meeting, to be honest, not this sort of informal dialogue that we're supposed to now be running, but the idea is certainly to have, you know, as much conversation as we can, but to do it in an orderly way, and I think a public hearing or a council meeting is the best way to do that. So if there's nothing else, we're certainly looking forward to the conversation and appreciate everybody's interest.
Ask questions? I would just a point of clarification, can we have somebody describe, we know who Webb is, can someone describe who Sun King is for sure, and the relationship between Sun King and Webb, so that we...
I'll do that.
This is Bob Mucci.
Bob Mucciarone of W. Webb. All of Webb's properties are held in realty trusts. They're related parties, but we do it to keep the real estate off the balance sheet of Webb. And it's a way for us to give stockholders, staff members, annuities in Webb and get the real estate off the balance sheet. Sun King is a related party to FW Webb Company. Sun King comes from the Beatles song, Sun King.
Thank you.
Very scientific.
Yeah. Most of Webb's properties are Beatles songs.
What's this one?
Which one, Sun King?
Well, this would be Sun King.
Sun
right?
King. Yeah, Sun King.
Anything else from the council? Heather, do you have something?
Madam Mayor, I was wondering, could we get the presentation that you just gave as well as the outline? And if it was okay with FW Webb, could we get your presentation so we can send it out to the neighborhoods?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put it up on our website and we'll get it to you as well. No objections on from you folks?
That way, if folks on here tonight, they can easily access that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I remember looking back in the past, recent past, how lucky Salem is. And a number of businesses who reinvest in Salem over the years. I can remember Garden Mattress, long time business in Salem, reinvesting in Salem. And we think nothing of it. They stayed in Salem. God, I sleep on a Garden Mattress.
They're the best.
I can also remember Tri-City Sales, reinvesting and staying in Salem. What that building looks like now, Tri-City Sales, what Garden Mattress looks like. And I can also remember Landry, right on Bridge Street. Landry Carpets, a noted name that wanted to go into Rockefeller's at one time, I believe, restaurant, but they stayed in Salem. We're lucky to have people like this, with FW Webb, to stay in Salem. We need businesses to reinvest and stay in Salem. That's the hallmark of Salem. Whenever I go to door to door, I've been around 20 years, people want business to come to Salem. They want lower taxes. What better than have local businesses reinvest and stay in Salem, not go to Danvers, which has more access, in Beverly and other Peabody, but they're willing to stay. So I'm looking forward to debate, discussion from neighbors, from other businesses, from neighbors around, but we have to think of the future of Salem. I'm a city council at large for 20 years. Sometimes you have to think of the big picture. I think people have a great recognition for Landry and the Carey. They stayed in Salem. Garden Mattress, Tri-City Sales. I think FW Webb would be right there, staying in Salem. I love Salem, and I'm looking forward to debate and discussion, but I think FW Webb is right in there. And thank you, FW Webb, for keeping Salem in mind. 8 square miles, cities, most businesses are not ready to come into Salem. We want them to stay in Salem. Swampscott Road is our new center of development. Swampscott Road. That's our new frontier development taking place. Cookies, glass, everything taking place. Let's reinvest in Salem. I think the debate and discussion is worth the issues tonight, and talk tonight in future meetings. But thank goodness, maybe use the word God, thank God that FW is reinvesting in Salem. Thank you.
You think we could get those online by midday tomorrow?
Yeah, sure, we'll try and get them right
Thank you.
away.
Wait a minute. Being a public meeting, I would ask for a time certain, 5-10 minutes or so, to allow any questions from the audience, asking for no redundancy, asking that maybe they decide a couple of few people to ask questions, but we're here. Some people have some questions. I
Great.
would ask for a few minutes.
Counselor Terrell, you want to manage the public comment? I mean, my understanding was
It's not even a meeting.
this was a request of the counselors that this be informational only. I'm happy to, I'll stay here all night.
Yeah,
I do often.
Just to be
so-
clear, the actual city council meeting itself is over. Is over. We're sitting here listening to, and this is the way with all the paperwork and all the shift between, between council years and all that this happened to have to get put together in the, and the way it was all posted. But so we've held the council meeting, that's over. So in that sense, we're all done. There's, this was intended to be the planning department simply presenting it to the council and interested parties. If people want to, if the mayor is amenable and people want to discuss this with her, that's, that's fine. But I would suggest that we've got a very lengthy process ahead of us that's going to be where this is going to be picked to shreds. And then put back together again, and then picked apart again, probably several times in the same evening. So tonight, we should probably go off and digest what we've heard here and have a chance to look at all the presentation materials ourselves and get well prepared. If the mayor wants to just stick around and discuss it with anybody who wants to discuss it, fine, but as far as a formal meeting goes, we're pretty much through, so.
Council meeting's over.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Public meeting.